Okay, this is Sarah Bradbury for Fred Film Radio, and I'm here at the London Film Festival, and I'm joined by Nuno Escudeiro, who is going to talk to us about his film, The Valley. So, Nuno, for people who aren't already familiar with your film, can you give us a brief introduction? What can people expect when they come and see it?
Well, The Valley is a film about the local population of this valley called the Roya Valley, that is between France and Italy, and how they suddenly see themselves in a place that becomes a route of passage for refugees, and how they start out of the kindness of their hearts helping refugees. And as a consequence of this, they get into a lot of trouble with the French state. Many of them get arrested, and how throughout time they start discovering that the French state is actually breaking a big number of laws, a big number of violating human rights, and how they start attacking the state and trying to put a stop to it.
And what was the inspiration for putting this story on the screen, and why did you think it was important?
Before coming to this place, I've lived in northern Finland, and now I live in northern Italy in Bolzano, and these are two places close to borders. And all of a sudden, what I realized was that the internal borders of Europe, that we have always known to be Schengen-free points of passage, started becoming militarized and started becoming closed. And right next to these borders, there were big groups of refugees that were stopped from crossing. And when I heard about this, I also heard about people who were helping refugees in these places. But they always did it in a very hidden manner because they were afraid of consequences, that they might get into trouble with the state and with the law. So they always kept it secret. And once I heard this story about this Roya Valley, where the people did exactly the opposite. They made it public. They were coming to the press and saying, look, this is happening. We need help. We need to change the situation. And I was so intrigued why they were making it public that I came to see what was going on. And I stayed for 2 years more, coming back and forth and making this film.
And were there some really challenging elements to, doing that research during those 2 years and being able to put this film on the screen?
Oh, yes. It's one of those films that is nothing but challenges. So we had a lot of scenes that we had to shoot with police, and we had some tough situations, tense situations with police. It was very complicated on the level of like having the right ethics to film towards refugees and knowing that we're always doing a good job and that we are always clear and that we're always respecting them. And it took us a long time also to get the trust, not a really long time, but some time to get the trust of the people being filmed, that they knew what we were doing. Also a long time to get the film funded. I mean, it was a challenging film, but in the end, we are here. We've been screening it all over Europe, in North America, and it's going quite well.
And obviously bringing, attention to the refugee crisis is really important, and it's something that's an ongoing crisis. But this is quite a refreshing take on it in some respects, that there is a kind of positive movement that's happening there. So what do you think the impact of this film could be in terms of bringing awareness to the issue, but also perhaps, inspiring people and having a positive message?
So I think that the big issue is to make sure that the refugee issue is not a moral issue only. That is not only like, look, there is this thing going on and we cannot take decisions on it. It's just something that's ongoing. What I wanted with this film is that we, as citizens of Europe, we are in the middle of this situation, that we are aware of the historical moment that we're going through, and that we are very clear what are the choices that we have, what are the choices that our states are doing, how are we responding as a society to this situation. And I wanted with this film to create this discussion, to say that we are agents of our own time, we are people who can do choices and do things and it's up to us to decide how we want to live history in this precise moment.
And what does it mean to you to have this film showing as part of London Film Festival specifically? I mean, obviously with Brexit going on and, there's been lots of speak of, the sort of rise in xenophobia. It's certainly something that's like in our discourse at the moment. So what's the significance for having the film shown here and at the festival?
I think, the big statement is to say, look, for me, you are still as part of Europe as always. And this discussion that I bring from another place in Europe is completely valid here, and we can have it here as Europeans because we're all going through the same thing. So it's to side with the people that are anti-Brexit and that see immigration in other ways, and the people that are for Brexit and not against immigration, and to really try to deal with the situation as a continent. So to remember people that we are having the same discussions throughout the whole Europe, and it's just another place where it's completely valid to have this discussion.
And what do you hope that people are going to leave the cinema thinking or feeling after watching your film?
As once a very beautiful description of this film that it says that the film encourages people to go rogue when they cannot be standing anymore and seeing the situation. So I hope this is what happens, that you get some energy to act, to make things better, to go and check what is happening regarding refugees in the place where you live, in the city where you live, in whatever it is, and try to give a hand, to try to meet people, to see what are their challenges and help them integrate and create a different view of Europe, or a different welcoming action.
And how do you see the broader cinema landscape in terms of the diversity of people who can make films and also the stories that are being told? It does feel like there's a shift underway, but do you still think there's some barriers to different people making films from different backgrounds? The types of people who are able to make films, from different backgrounds and tell more diverse stories than perhaps we've seen in the past.
Well, definitely. I think it's... I just met a refugee in the place where I'm living, Eddie, and he's making films. And he's making films about himself, he's making films about other refugees that he meets. So there is a really beautiful sense of agency, that someone from his own background is taking place to do something. And technology is allowing this. And I think also knowledge. We see that now smaller and smaller cities have filmmaking communities. I live in Bolzano. It's a city of 100,000 people, and we have a huge documentary and fiction filmmaking community. And it's from that background that I'm here today. So we also have an expression, and we are creating things that travel the world. So I think that it's the best time ever to do films that are meaningful and that want to communicate something important.